The air since 1951. This is The Legend. 105.3, 95.3, WDXE.
That's us, WDXE, The Legend. And of course, it is time for Friends and Neighbors with yours truly. And I have held off telling anybody who I was going to have today until just now. And the surprise is none other than my good friend Lonnie Box.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lonnie Box. And you know what? You think they may think it's strange that I would want you to be my guest, but I did, and I've had you on my list for a while, and thinking about how we might do this at some point, and it worked out for this week. Mm-hmm. It worked out for this week, and
so you got to the bottom of the barrel.
I got to the bottom. I've run out of people. I'm just kidding. You know I'm just kidding. And,
I know it.
And I've got May with me over there. Say hello, May.
Hi.
May's over there with me. But Lonnie Box, you've seen, I guess, how we do this. And, of course, you're not unfamiliar with a lot of folks here who listen to the radio. That's for sure. That's for sure. And, of course, we've got our radio stuff and our radio history. And you and I have been friends I don't know how long now, but since
I started on WDXE in 2016.
Yeah, so anyway, we've known each other a pretty good while.
We have, yeah.
Pretty good while, and mainly just right here in the studio, and a little beyond here and there.
Yeah.
But we're not going to talk too much about that so much because that's something we do every day. You know, the radio stuff, and you have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to. Yeah, you do. I know. I'm not. But seriously, music knowledge, an artist of every genre, you seem to have a pretty good wealth of knowledge. But what I want to do is find out more about Lonnie Box, the person.
Okay.
And I'm serious about this. I'm 100% serious. I want to know about, how Lonnie Box became Lonnie Box, all the way back. I mean, you can start as far back in your family history as you want to go.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm serious. I want to know who mom and dad was, where they come from, and where you were born, that kind of thing. So how did life begin for Lonnie Box?
Well, actually, I was born on November the 24th, 1961 in Lester, Alabama.
61? That's the same year I was born.
The old Dr. Jackson Hospital down there in Lester, Alabama.
Lester, Alabama. Where is Lester, Alabama, for those of us who don't know?
That is close to Minor Hill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You take the, what is it, Salem? Is it Salem Road?
Yeah.
Down through there.
So south of Minor Hill,
Limestone County,
across the border,
yeah,
into Alabama, and it's what is it? Lester? Did you say?
Lester, Lester.
Lester. I think I've been through there, but it's been a long time ago. Yeah. So you were born and raised there in Lester, Alabama?
No, I was born in Lester, but I was raised in 5 Points.
So y'all moved quickly then?
Well, no, we lived in 5 Points. That's where back then, everybody always went to Dr. Jackson down in Lester.
Oh, okay. Well, you've confused me. Okay. So you grew up in 5 Points then?
Yes.
So you lived in 5 Points growing up?
Oh, yeah.
But born in, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Now I'm with you.
Okay.
All right. Were you always this size?
I was, yeah, I've always been big.
You always been a big boy. I bet you a big baby.
I think Mama said I was 10 pounds and something.
Well,
10 pounds.
I was going to say, are you the oldest?
Yes.
And so how many brothers and sisters?
I've got a brother, John. He's still living.
Yeah.
And then I had a sister. She passed away in January 2nd, 76 of leukemia.
Oh.
And
now, I think I've seen maybe pictures of John.
Yeah.
I don't think I've met John.
Yeah.
Did I meet John?
You may have.
John's taller than you.
Oh, yeah. He was 11 pounds, 13 ounces when he was born.
Oh, my gosh.
And
now, where does he live?
He's still in 5 Points.
Okay, still in 5 Points.
Yep.
All right, well, you must have liked 5 Points.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Don't you still live down in that neck of the woods?
Well, right now I'm living in Revelo.
Revelo.
Yeah, we're staying with my sister-in-law who's not doing well, and we've been with her, almost 4 years now, I guess.
Oh, okay. All right, and taking care of her. That's good. That's good.
Yep.
Well, what was life like for little Lonnie Box way back when?
Well, my earlier years were good. You know, we weren't well off.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a whole lot. I remember growing up in a house that had electricity, but it didn't have any running water.
Yeah.
Or indoor plumbing.
Yeah.
And I can remember having to tote water.
Yeah.
And
That was just the way things were.
That's just the way it was.
Yeah.
But then Daddy,
What was your dad like?
he was a good guy. I mean, he had his faults like everybody
Oh,
did. He was sickly. He got through from a horse when he was young and busted his spleen.
Oh.
And he was, they didn't expect him to live as long as he did. And back in the late 60s, he enrolled in the Nashville Auto and Diesel College and studied auto body.
Okay.
And then after he graduated, they made him an instructor. And we lived in Nashville for a little while.
Oh, really?
And
What years were you in Nashville? You remember?
69, 70.
Okay.
We moved back here right before my brother John was born.
Oh, okay. So he's quite a bit younger than you.
Yeah. Yeah, he was born in 70.
Now, was your dad and mom, were they both kind of native of here? Or they come from somewhere else? Or?
Your daddy was born and raised in 5 Points. And then Mama, she was a Price.
A Price. Okay.
And she was raised in Revelo.
So you've got family here.
Yep. I've got all kind of family here.
All right.
And of course, my mama's daddy, he was an older man. He actually fought in the Spanish-American War.
Oh, really?
Yep. And he moved here
Now,
after the war. He moved here from Cott County.
The Spanish-American War, that was, gosh, I don't know my history well enough to know the years of that.
That was the late 1800s.
Well, now, what was his name? You remember his name?
Samuel Jackson.
Oh, I think you've told me about it.
Samuel Jackson Price.
Samuel Jackson. What a name.
Everybody called him Jack.
How about that?
And he had 16 kids.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. My mama was one of 16.
One of 16.
Yep.
Wow. Do you know what he did as far as
He was a farmer.
just farming?
He was a farmer.
Yeah.
That's all he ever done.
Most everybody were, I guess, that lived in this part of the country then. That was the only choice you had was farming.
As a matter of fact, Price, it used to be just Price Road, but back when they done the 911, they changed it to Price Jenkins Road down there in
Price
Revelo.
Jenkins, yeah.
And he owned most of that in that part of the country.
Well, good deal.
And then Daddy's, his granddaddy was John Allen Box.
John Allen Box.
And that's who my brother John is named after.
Okay.
And he owned a lot. He farmed, and he had a house full of kids. I'm not sure exactly. He had, when him and Grandma Box married, she had children from a previous marriage, and so did he. And then they had my granddaddy and my Aunt Lonnie.
Okay.
And so they was...
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Now, the name Box, have you looked up any history on the name Box? I mean, and where that might have originated?
It says, from what I found, it's a Welsh name.
Welch.
But actually, I've run the history back, and we had back a long time ago, some of our ancestors came here from Scotland to America.
Okay.
And at the time, they lived in Alabama, down around Winston.
Okay.
Then in Winston County, Alabama.
Winston County.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly where Winston County is, but...
That's, well, it's not that far away.
Is it not?
No.
Okay.
Couple-hour drive.
Okay.
Double Springs, Haleyville,
Okay.
Arley, down that area.
You know, a lot of folks from that live here in our county seem to have had ancestry that come from Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
My folks did. Teresa's daddy, who's 92 now, his family was in Alabama, and they moved up here. I don't know what the deal was. I don't know if there was some cheaper land or, when families were expanding or something like that. I'd like to know a little bit more about that.
Well, now, my grandmother Box, she was a Yoakum,
Okay.
and her family came from Franklin County, Alabama.
Yeah.
And then my Granny Price, she was a Randolph.
Randolph.
And
Now, that's an old name.
and they, I can't find nothing on the Randolph family as far
really?
as searching the history. I know they come out of Giles County.
Yeah.
But,
Well, somebody may want to tell us a little bit of history on this or something. Hey, good morning. You're on WDXE with us.
All right, you're talking about the Winston County back, I'd say in the 20s, maybe early 30s, lots of people migrated here from Winston County, Alabama, to raise cotton.
That's
So
what it
there's
was.
lots of connection right here in Lawrence County with the older people with Winston County, Alabama.
That explains it. I've heard that too. Come to think of it,
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think so. I think Teresa's dad's, his dad, her granddad, bought some land up here, up in the Hudson community, and they moved from down in Alabama down there when he was just a boy.
Yeah.
So I've just heard a lot of folks. I've talked to folks, doing this, and just over the years, and people would say they come from somewhere in Alabama,
Yes.
something like that. So that makes sense. They come up here to farm, find more farmland, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Absolutely.
Interesting stuff there. So you, growing up, you went to school. Where'd you go to school?
I went to the University of Five Points.
University. Did you graduate all the way?
I graduated from there, yes.
All right. Where'd you go to high school?
Loretta
High School.
Yes.
I knew that, but
Yeah.
so what year did you graduate? 70, 80.
80.
You graduated 80.
Yep.
All right.
See,
So
because you was born in August and I was born in November, and I had to wait a
you had to
year.
wait a year. Yep.
So,
Had to wait a year. So all that. Yes. We're doing an interview. What do you need, hon?
I'm the special guest on.
You're a special
She's the
guest?
guest.
Yeah.
He's the guest today.
Yeah.
Okay.
So can it wait?
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, because he was just going to use your voice to interview Barbara T. So.
Okay. You go do it.
I'll see if I can help.
See the life you're in demand
Yeah.
all the time.
Yep.
Your voice and in the radio world, you're being called to do some commercials.
I'm always doing
always
something.
always doing some commercials or whatever. So, well, anyway, so you get out of high school, and I kind of wanted to get to this part, I guess. Did you work some during school, or have to do different that the other during high school?
During the summers, I usually worked through the CETA program for the city of Loretta,
Okay.
and I'd haul hay.
Oh yeah.
When I was
everybody
needed.
did that. Yeah.
And then after I graduated, and as a matter of fact, when I was still in high school, when this building was a bowling alley that Bud Abbott had, I actually worked in the bowling alley.
Oh really?
Yep.
So during your high school years, you worked in the bowling alley
high
up here
school
for
and
Bud
trade
Abbott.
school years, yeah.
What was some of your what were
me.
some of your duties here at the bowling alley?
My main duty was to sit back where the pen machines were at, and if one of them got jammed, I had to fix it.
That would happen.
Especially during when they was having a bowling tournament.
That would happen, fairly often. Really, they'd get
And
kind of
then,
jammed up.
There was a few times they got me to work the snack bar. I'll never forget one time I worked the snack bar, and Mike Lynch was the manager at the time, and he was my band director at Loretta High School.
Yeah.
And Robbie Price, he worked the concession stand. Well, he wanted off for a week, so
Yeah.
they got me to work the concession stand. And people come up and they got to ordering chocolate milkshake.
Yeah.
And man, I mean, they just, they just flooded us wanting my chocolate milkshake. Well, Mr. Lynch, he come to me, he says, "How are you making those shakes?" I said, "Well, I'm putting the chocolate ice cream in it and milk." No, there's a milkshake base you're supposed to use. I said, "Well, nobody told me."
You just making like you knew how to make them.
That's the way I made them at home, so.
Oh, okay, so you used the real ice cream
Yep.
instead of the mix. Well, that's pretty cool. So you're in high school, and so what I was going to ask you about, did you have hobbies, or what was high school like for Lonnie Box?
My high school years were a whole lot better than my elementary years.
Yeah,
I mean, I struggled in elementary school. I'll be the first to admit it.
yeah.
And
I
of
struggled
course,
all the way through
And of
school.
course, during the years when my sister, she was diagnosed with leukemia in '73,
Yeah,
and then from '73 until '76, it was pretty rough.
yeah, I can imagine.
And then when I got into high school, I mean, everything fell into place. I joined the band. I was in the
What'd you play?
I played saxophone.
Saxophone.
I was in the band for 4 years. And
Can you still play the saxophone some?
a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's been a long time since I've picked one up. But, and I've always had a love for music.
Oh yeah.
And
Is
funny story. I tell you how I got into the band.
Okay.
Freshman year, we were in PE. Back then it was PE,
That's right.
and they had me running backwards, and I fell. I can't even walk backwards, Jeff. If I'm helping somebody carry something, I can't do it walking backwards.
It ain't gonna happen.
Well, I fell and hit my head, and I just about got a concussion. I hit so hard. When class was over, I marched myself down to the office, and I told Mr. Carl Urban, says, I want to be in the band. Because you took band, you didn't have to take PE.
You don't have to march backwards either much.
You didn't have to march backwards. So I was, and that was a smart move on my part because I absolutely loved band.
Well, good deal.
Yep.
So you developed a love of music pretty early.
Yep.
Probably listening to the radio all the time and all that kind of stuff.
Hey, I can remember going to bed in my high school years listening to the radio.
What was your favorite stuff?
I've always country, rock, gospel.
Well, you got it all.
I mean, I like it all.
So you got out of high school. What'd you do out of high school?
When I got out of high school and went to trade school in Pulaski, took drafting.
Drafting.
Big mistake.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now, why was that a big mistake?
Well, you couldn't find a job with it.
Oh.
Every time you apply for a job as a draftsman, well, everybody we hire has to have so many years' experience. Well, how am I going to get the experience if I don't?
Yeah.
And so I wound up going to Murray.
Okay.
I worked at Murray for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And that was during the time that me and my first wife married, and got laid off from Murray and didn't know what I was going to do, and found out that there was a job opening at the sheriff's department for a jailer.
Oh, really?
And so luckily enough, my cousin Roy Powell was the sheriff, and he hired me.
So you were cousins to Mr. Sheriff Roy Powell?
Yes, Roy's daddy Millard and my granddaddy were half brothers.
And you were a pretty good sized fella.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How old were you when you went to the sheriff's department?
20.
20? Wow. What was that like? Now, I've never been in law enforcement. I know a few officers, and are thankful for them, and watch TV shows about law enforcement. And I've been in the jail a few times, but not as an inmate. I've used to visit there on doing, we used to do ministry there some. And so I knew even when it was the older jail, under the courthouse there, we started there.
Well, it's still under the courthouse.
Well, yeah, it is. But before they did the renovations, we were going there for a while. But I don't really know what it's like being in law enforcement for sure.
Well, I wanted to go into law enforcement.
Yeah.
And when I was working for the city of Loretta, Morris Brown at the time was the chief of police down there.
Yeah.
And I made the comment to him one time that, I'd like to go into law enforcement. He said, don't do it. No, you don't want to do that. I wished I'd listened to him.
Yeah.
Because it could be a trying job.
I bet.
My respects to, some of these officers, they got my respect because I know what they have to go through.
Well, they see a lot of things that a lot of us don't.
Yep.
And see sometimes the ugly side of our existence.
Yes.
And it's not pleasant necessarily sometimes. I guess it can be rewarding though in some avenues.
In some avenues, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially, one thing that I think about is I look at some of the people that used to be in and out of jail when I was a jailer.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I went from jailing to dispatching and to the warrant clerk. I was a warrant clerk when I quit. And I've actually seen some of the guys and girls that were locked up in and out all the time. And I've seen one of them. I won't mention his name because I don't want to embarrass him, but I mean, there wasn't nothing he wouldn't do.
Yeah.
And he settled down, and he's doing good now. And I told him, I said, I'm proud of you.
Turned his life around.
The ones that you can see that,
Yeah.
learned their lesson.
Yeah.
And
During the years that I went we went and did ministry there. There were a handful of guys that made turnarounds. It really, and I seen one just recently.
Yep.
That made that turnaround, and so there's always hope for someone.
oh yeah,
If they can get their feet under them and maybe get the right message, and if it takes root, in that person.
well, it goes back to the point, judge not unless you can be judged.
Yeah.
And you can't judge these people. You don't know what they went through. But it was their choice to do whatever they done.
Right.
But
I used to tell folks, even there, when they would want to turn around, and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't mean, you could turn your life around right now, turn over a new leaf, come to the Lord, those kind of things. But it doesn't negate what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
You're still going to have to pay the consequences for what.
Absolutely.
There's consequences to what took place. So it's not a magic wand. It doesn't make what happened go away. They still have to live with the results of whatever happened. And some of them would take root, and did. And I was just dealing with one just here recently who did some work for me, and I met that young man in the jail, and he's made a whole big turnaround. A whole different deal.
Yep.
So you're in law enforcement now. You were at the you were jailer to start with.
I
now,
was jailer.
So what's the different roles in the sheriff's department like that? I mean, were you out on patrol too, or did you do that, or did you mainly?
Every once in a while, somebody would call in, they'd need somebody, and I'd go out and patrol with them. But I found out real quick that wasn't for me.
So you mainly was the jailer.
I mainly stayed in the office. Like I said, I started out as a jailer. Position come open for a dispatch for several years, and then the warrant clerk position come open. And I took that. And,
now, what is the difference in these roles? You got the jailer, and then you got the dispatch. I know what dispatch does, but I mean, what's the warrant clerk?
The warrant clerk was what I would do was go up to the circuit court clerk's office and gather the warrants that had been taken out, and bring them back, process them, get them ready for the deputies to serve.
Okay.
And then after they were served, I'd do what I had to do, take them back to the clerk's office, and so they could do their process.
Interesting. Oh. Well,
and then also during the warrant clerk phase, doing the fingerprint cards was part of the warrant clerk duties.
Okay.
You have to do the fingerprint cards, send them in to the state.
Take the pictures?
No, the pictures were already taken.
Okay.
They take 2 sets of pictures.
The mug shot.
One for the mug shot for the sheriff's department, and then one to send to the TBI.
Okay. All right. And while we're, talking on this, I want to move beyond this in your career here in a minute, but while we're talking on this part of your career, is there anything sticks out really super memorable? I'm sure there's probably lots of things. But,
there's lots.
And there's probably lots you couldn't tell.
A lot of things I can't tell.
But I'm sure there was some comedy. Were there pranksters among the sheriff's department?
Oh, yes.
We used to work with each other at different places.
Oh,
Somebody
yes.
was always pulling pranks.
Oh, yes.
Did you ever lock yourself in a jail cell?
No.
Okay.
No, never done that. No. I wouldn't like Lonnie. I didn't do that. But yeah, we were always pulling pranks on each other and doing things. One memorable thing I remember doing was, what happened. I wasn't there, but they was telling me about it. We had a jailer when I was dispatcher. Tim Cummins was his name. His nickname was Tiny.
Okay.
And as Dennis Daniels say, he looked like a Coke machine with a head.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about.
And he went to the bathroom one night, and when they did, somebody opened the door, turned the light off, and set off one of those chaser things, fireworks.
Oh, my gosh.
And they said it went right under the stall he was in. He said it was just going around and around his face. But we was always doing stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, that kind of breaks up the monotony, makes coming to work a little fun.
Yeah, you had kind of thing. That kind of work. You had to do stuff like that.
Lighten it up a little bit. Now, was Roy Powell sheriff the whole time you were there?
I went to work at the sheriff's department in '82, and then that was he wasn't running again, and that's when Tom Purdom come in.
Okay.
And then I worked his whole term. He was there.
Yeah.
And then worked under Bruce Durham, and then I was with Chief Dorning when I left the sheriff's department.
Chief Dorning goes to church with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, still see him on a pretty regular basis. I need to have him in here one day.
That would be good.
If I can get him up that early.
Yeah.
I need to get him in here. Chief Dorning would be a good guest for us one time.
But I worked there for 14 years.
14 years.
Yeah,
so you
finally
stuck it out a long time.
When I finally decided I'd had enough, I couldn't take no more.
Well, what brought that on? Where did you go from there?
From there, well, actually, I was working part-time DJ on the weekends at WLX. And then when I left from the sheriff's department, I still done the part-time thing at there. I worked at Boone and Crockett for a while.
Yeah.
And then got a call from Raymond and Brenda Chandler at WJOR in St. Joe. They had a full-time position open. And they called me and asked me if I wanted it. I said, well, I don't know. I said, I don't want to leave Roger and them short-handed. And Roger got wind that I'd been offered the full-time position at WJOR, and he come to me. He said, you need to take that.
How about that?
He said, you need to take that.
Well, time out just a minute. Let me back up. I want to get to your days down there.
Okay.
But how did you end up even doing the weekend deal at WLX? How'd that come about?
I just there was one deputy worked for Roger when the station was at Pulaski,
Okay.
and he wanted me to come over there one night and sit in with him.
Yeah.
And so I went over there and I sat with him and I watched him. I thought, man, I'd like to do this.
Yeah.
It seems like that would be a fun job. And then later on, I talked to Roger, and he had a weekend position to come open, and said, if you want it, it's yours.
Well, how about that?
And so, like I said, I worked, this was in the 90s, and I don't know how long I worked part-time at WLX, but that's where I got my feet wet.
Okay. All right. So then, what was the call letters in St. Joe? I can't remember.
WJOR.
JOR, yeah. WJOR was birthed. I mean, they came out of nowhere,
Oh,
the
yeah.
best I remember.
Yeah.
The Chandlers opened that station up. I remember when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going to be all gospel, weren't they?
Well,
Or
what
were they?
It was country during the day, and then from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. it was country, and then from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Well, no, actually, I take it back. Then it started. Country started at 8 till 6, and then gospel was from 6 until.
Well, they made a pretty big splash.
They did.
They got on the map pretty quick.
They did
with that station. How long? So you went to work pretty soon after they
That
opened
was
up.
That was in. Well, they'd been open a few years. I went to work down there in '96.
Okay.
That's when I.
So you weren't with them right at the beginning, but
Oh,
pretty
no.
close. Okay.
Uh,
How long were you down there, man?
I was down there for 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
So you had a whole life before I knew even much
Oh, yeah.
about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you became pretty well known then, I guess, as far as radio.
Well, people knew me from the sheriff's department before that.
Oh yeah.
And then, of course, WJOR just added fuel to the fire.
Yeah. WJR was down in St. Joe, but they had a pretty big, pretty wide signal.
Yes.
They were broadcasting how far?
I've had people, when I worked there, to tell me that they could pick us up all on their car radio all the way down to Birmingham.
Really?
Yep.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, the signal seemed to go further south than it did north. Usually you get to about Summertown. Now, once you get to Rockdale Hill, it would drop off on your radio. But
Yeah.
they had a big following.
They had a big following.
Big following.
Sure did. And they had some local, I remember, I was trying to think, Tim Cunningham. Did you know?
Tim Cunningham.
Tim Cunningham, of course, he grew up in Etheridge, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, I knew Tim from church. He and I were church friends, went to church together. But he also had he had a role down there, too.
I think he was one of the first DJs that they called that, they hired. I know their daughter, Kay, she worked for a while.
Yeah.
And then Tim Cunningham was there. The main ones I can remember when I was there, when I started to work at WJOR, it was Steve Cole and Sonia Johnson.
Okay.
Were the two DJs that were there. And then I come in and I was the third DJ they had.
Yeah. I remember listening some to it. It wasn't one that I listened to regularly, but I knew it was there and would tune in, every so often. But the gospel music was the big thing.
The gospel music was the big thing.
Yes. And a lot of call-ins.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. One of the funniest calls I got to tell this, was working gospel music. They had me on the gospel music shift at night. And when I didn't know a whole lot about Southern gospel music. I've listened to it, but I didn't keep up with it at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And this lady, she called up. She said, "Hey, there's a new song y'all been playing, and I want to hear it." I said, "What's the name of it?" "Well, I don't know what the name of it is, but it's something to do about Jesus." Well, that narrowed it down.
Narrowed it down.
Yeah.
Something to do about Jesus. That's funny.
And I will say that I was going through some. I'm not ashamed. Well, I'm not proud of it, but I was going through some mental issues from working at the sheriff's department.
Really?
I mean, I was in pretty bad shape, and I will say that turned my life around.
Really?
Going to WJOR.
Really?
It did.
Well, that's good.
It woke me up, and of course, you're sitting there playing some of that gospel music, knowing what's going on, and you get under conviction. And
Yeah.
there've been a lot of nights I'd sit there and cry.
Really? Well, you had life. You had life going on.
Yeah,
Had life going
had
on.
life going on, and but that just it opened up other doors for me.
Well, I don't know how much you want to get into a lot of your personal life, but you have children.
Yep.
I want you to tell me about your family. Okay. Tell me about your family a little bit.
Well, I've got 10 kids from 4 different
I was
women.
gonna say, you need to clarify how all that works, buddy.
Actually, when my first daughter, Cassandra, of course, she was born in '82. When that's from my first marriage,
Yes.
and then after me and my first wife divorced, and I went several years, and I met Barbara Hagan
Yes.
from Arevalo, and fell madly in love for real that time.
Yes.
And of course, Cassie, I think Cassie was, Cassandra, we call her Cassie. She was like 4 years old when me and Barbara married.
Okay.
And then me and Barbara thought we never were going to have any children.
Yeah.
She had got pregnant once and miscarried, and just didn't think it was ever going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
It happened.
It happened. Barbara went to the doctor with a sinus infection and come out pregnant. And we had Jackie. He was my second born. And then
Now I've met Jackie, and he is in Chattanooga now.
he's in Chattanooga.
Yes.
Well, then we took care of my grandmother for a while until she passed away. And we had a friend that was in foster care, doing foster care.
Yes.
And Barbara said, I want to do this. And so when grandmother passed away, we took the classes and we went into foster care, wound up adopting 8 kids. Not intending to go into foster care to adopt, that's
Yes.
not what we was doing it for, but we had 2 boys, Rusty and Troy, that they come to us and said that they needed a home. They were teenagers, young teenagers, and they was in the system, and they needed a home, and we met them, and we clicked, and so we wound up adopting them. Then we took a sibling group of 6 in
Oh
for
my
foster
gosh.
care,
Oh my goodness, Box.
and we had no intentions of adopting them, and next thing you know, they said, well, Mom and Daddy's not going to do what they were supposed to do, and if y'all don't adopt these 6 kids, they're going to all be separated.
Oh
So
my.
we adopted the 6 kids.
Wow.
2 of them were infants,
Wow.
the twins,
That's right.
and so
So you've had your hands full for years.
I've had my hands full for years.
But what a blessing.
Oh yes,
What a
Yeah.
blessing.
yeah.
I've known you, I guess, during some of those years, and know you to be the good person that I think you are, and Barbara especially too. And you guys have been, well, you have been a great friend to me.
Well, I try to
here
be
at the
when-
studio.
I try to be when you let me.
I know, and but hey, taking in all those children, that's a monumental task,
It was,
and challenging to a household.
and in the course of the situation that we took the 4 kids in. Actually, they were my wife's first cousin's grandchildren.
Okay. Okay.
And we took the first 4 in, and we knew that the mother was pregnant with the twins. And we,
Oh, wow.
and we both said, there's no way, we can raise 10 twin infants. There's no way.
Yeah.
And, of course, I had to get to thinking about it. I thought, golly, if we don't do something with them twins, then they're going to be separated. And I was here in town for something one day, and Barbara called me on my cell phone and says, I need to talk to you. I said, okay. She said, it can't wait. I need to talk to you right now. I said, okay, what's wrong? She said, nothing's wrong, but I've been thinking. I said, I can't separate these other 4 from the twins.
Yeah.
She says, we got to do something about it. I said, good. That's what I've been thinking too. Let's do it. And so we got the twins when they were 5 days old.
Oh my gosh.
And
wow,
but,
how wonderful.
Of course, the other 4, the situation they came out of, it was rough.
I'm sure.
It was real rough on them.
I'm sure.
And on us too.
No doubt.
But
no doubt.
We got them all grown except the twins, and they'll be 17 Sunday.
Wow, the twins are 17.
They will be 17
this
Sunday.
How about that?
Yeah, born on Christmas Eve.
Well, awesome. Well, good job. How about that?
Well,
just a good job and a good work, no doubt. No doubt.
We just done what we felt the good Lord wanted us to do, and
Good deal.
I'll never forget Brother John Oliveris at the Cathedral of Faith. That's where we going to church at. He told us. He said, God has revealed to me that as long as you're doing what He wants you to do, your cupboards will never be bare.
Yeah.
And
He's right.
he was right.
Yeah. He's not going to let you go hungry.
No.
That's right. Amen. Well, good deal. A lot of people may not have known all that about you, and I have known in bits and pieces.
Yep.
And I know it's pretty special.
Yeah.
Pretty special. Well, so you had all these young'uns.
Oh, yeah.
And you had to provide for them.
Had to provide
And
for
the
them.
radio world is where you've kind of settled in and made your home.
Yes.
You were JOR for however long that was. Now, did you stay till they closed or changed hands?
I was there when they closed.
Okay. And they sold out.
Yep.
And so then what? What had you do?
Well, then after that, Charlie Melson from over in Wayne County had not a Southern Gospel, a country gospel label called Jordan Records.
Yeah.
And he came to me and says, I need somebody to help me. And I says, okay. So I done that for a while. And then
Now, what was that?
I was there. I done the radio promotions for him.
Okay.
And done that for I think 2 or 3 years. It just wasn't paying the bills. It just didn't. It was one of those deals that everybody said, if you'll do it, we'll take part. We'll be part of it. And then he started it, and everybody that said they'd be part of it decided they didn't want to do it. And
it was a good idea.
It was a good idea.
While it was an idea.
While it was an idea.
Yeah.
So then I was out of work for a while, and then I went to work at Target down in Florence.
That's what I was going to ask you about, because I know you've mentioned being at Target a time
Yep.
or two. So you went to work at Florence Target.
Yep.
After JOR and after the
Jordan Records.
The Jordan Records deal.
Yep.
Well, that was life. That was different.
It was.
That was very different.
It was, and I was working, unloading trucks
Okay.
and putting out stock.
Well, they hadn't been there all that long then, I don't guess.
I'm not sure how long they'd been there.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those deals. It was supposed to just be seasonal.
Yes.
They around Christmas time, I think it was right around October, I went to work. I knew it was only seasonal. More than likely, when that was over with, that I'd be looking for something
Looking
else.
again, huh?
And they even told me after the Christmas rush went down. They said, "Well," I said, this was only seasonal. We're not going to be able to keep you on, but we will call you back if when we need somebody."
Right.
I said, "Well, that's okay." I said, "I expected that."
Yep.
And went home, and my daddy was living with us at the time. When I said, "Well, that's it," I said, "I'm out of a job again."
Well.
And sitting there an hour or two after I'd got home, the phone rung, and it was my supervisor,
Yeah.
Chris Niederker says.
Yeah.
He says, "I've been talking to my bosses, we want you to stay.
How about that?
I said, okay.
Well, good deal.
And
So how long you were down there?
Oh, 5 or 6 years. I'm
Really?
not sure exactly how long I was down there.
Really?
But I was down there for several years.
Well,
And,
good deal.
But then it was 2016. I was in my shop working, and Jackie come and said, "Daddy," said, "Ben Luna's trying to get a hold of you."
Oh, really?
I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I just got a message from him on Facebook, and he's trying to get a hold of you. You need to call him." So I called him. He said, "Well, Ronnie Allen's getting ready to retire, and we need somebody to replace him. You think you'd be interested?" Well, I don't know.
So here we go.
So there we go.
Good deal.
So I've been here since 2016. So
Wow.
love it.
Well, it's a great place, and of course they've been gracious enough to let me be a part of this and to play with you guys in the mornings. But you're here every day, all day,
Oh yeah.
and got responsibilities beyond WDXE.
Yep.
WDXE's been a part of it here for you, but you do studio work, which means programming some and all that kind of
Programming
stuff.
some, yes.
Give me a little bit of the rundown on what's a day like for Lonnie Box at the studios here.
Well, I usually start out, if I've got preacher spots for here, I'll have to load them up.
Right.
I check the source where we get the music for WLX, and from time to time, if anything new, then I load it into the computer, so we'll have new music,
Yeah.
and just whatever they need me to do.
And
whether
fuss at me.
fuss at you. Yeah. If they need me to fill in on the X, I can fill in on the X.
Yeah.
But I've even worked at the station in Pulaski, WKSR.
Well, that's the thing that I think they know about Lonnie Box is Lonnie's got enough skill sets regarding radio work that he could go to any studio that they've got, and they've got what 3 here and 1 in Pulaski,
3 here, 1 in Pulaski.
and plus the production studios. Not to mention those. There's at least 2 of those
Yep.
here, maybe 3. I think there's 1 there, and 1 up front, and 1 in the side over there. So we got production studios, we got the radio broadcast studios,
Yes.
and Lonnie Box can handle the buttons in any of them.
And there's one thing I need to mention, because if they're listening and I don't say something about it, they're going to be mad at me.
Oh, you need to.
I was also part of, at one time, a bluegrass gospel group.
Oh, really?
Yes. The Price family.
Oh, okay.
It was my
I don't
mama's
think I knew that at
my
all.
mama's brother, and his wife, Aunt Geraldine. Of course, Uncle Benton, or Uncle Hugh, as he wanted to be called, he's passed away. But it was them, and then their children, Donald, Richard, Kathy, and Kathy's husband, Rudy,
Yeah.
and me, and we were the Price family.
Well, what did you do in the Price family?
Well, I started out singing with them, and then next thing you know, they needed a bass player, and I tried to learn how to play the bass, and I'd play bass for them some.
Really?
Now, I couldn't play the bass right now. If somebody put one in my hand, it's been so long since I've had it in my hands, I can't
Yeah.
even remember where the chord is at. But yeah, well, I was with the Price family for several years.
Well, how about that?
Good opportunity. We had a lot of fun.
Well, you've had a diverse life,
Yeah,
buddy.
well.
And still working on it.
Still working on it.
Still have a lot to go.
I hope so.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I used to poke fun at you about your Indian heritage.
Yes. Yep.
Because you told me about that. Tell me how that all started.
Well, I've always been told that we were part Cherokee, that we had Cherokee blood,
Yes.
and I've never had a DNA test done or nothing like that to see.
Yeah.
But I met a gentleman, J.T. Young, down at Loretta, and he is actually part Cherokee and part Lakota Sioux.
Okay.
And he got me into my Native American heritage.
Yeah.
And I actually been to the powwows and the regalia.
Yeah. You made your own headdress,
Yeah, I actually made my own headdress.
which was really nice, by the way.
And but I done that for a while, and then one time I even let my hair grow out long.
Yes, I've
I
seen
mean,
some
it
pictures.
was when I finally got it cut, it was almost to my waist.
I remember seeing pictures. You should see the pictures, May.
Oh, Lord.
But it was fun looking at stuff up
Oh, yeah.
and learning different stuff about
Yeah.
Native American culture and
Yeah,
heritage.
there's something kind of interesting about all that.
Oh, yeah.
And intriguing.
Yeah,
And I'm sure you did learn a lot about it.
and learned quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it was fun, but of course, I know somebody says something about it. I don't take it to heart. It's it is what it is, and ain't no isers, grandmother would
That's
say.
right. We got a picture or two. I think you brought that headdress in here one time, the studio.
Yep.
And it's impressive. It's authentic looking.
Yep.
It's very authentic.
The only thing I didn't make on that was the beadwork that was around the head.
Yeah.
JT's wife, Diana, actually made that.
Yeah.
And,
It's pretty
but
neat.
everything else, I made it by hand, except the feathers. The turkey made
Well,
the
the
feathers.
turkey makes the feathers, I guess. Or the eagles. Well, you can't get eagle feathers.
You have to have a card from the Bureau of Indian Affairs before you can possess an eagle or a hawk feather.
Isn't that amazing?
So
Even if you find one,
even if you find one,
I think that's true.
Yep.
Now you can get, I know where you can get rooster feathers.
well, I do too. But
We got our buddy that calls in the trading post. He sells
Yeah.
rooster
Yeah.
feathers.
But
Some tail
actually,
feathers.
most of your regalia is going to come from a turkey or a duck or
Yeah,
something like that. They frown upon chicken feathers.
I would bet.
Yep.
I would bet. You got to have something better than that, or
Yes.
in their esteemed higher, I guess, or
Yes.
something like that.
Yes.
Something like that. Well, we've got a few more minutes, and I wanted to get into a little bit more about present day stuff. Of course, I know every day, you're here, you come in graciously and help with the word of the day, and then you take off and do the real job, all that kind of stuff, as we say.
Yep.
And your real job, of course, is studio work, but you also have an afternoon or a midday and afternoon gig with our sister station,
WLX.
WLX.
I'm on there from 9 until 2.
9 till 2. So you can follow Lonnie Box as he leaves here and goes from 9 to 2 up there. And you've got some segments there that you named after yourself.
Yeah. Actually, Ben Luna helped with that.
He did?
Outside the Box with LB.
Mm-hmm. LB.
Yeah.
LB. Well, what are some of your favorite radio memories from around the horn?
Oh, my goodness. Some of the people I've got to meet.
Oh, yeah. You've met a lot of people.
I remember when I was at WJOR, at that time, Billy Lawson, songwriter, record producer, and all that, lived in St. Joe. Hold on a minute. I'm trying to get rid of this sinus stuff.
Yes.
Sitting there one day, and somebody come in the front door,
Fixed it.
and it was Billy Lawson.
Yeah.
I said, golly, I don't know who he's got with him, but it looks just like T. Graham Brown. It was T. Graham
It
Brown.
was T. Graham Brown.
I'm sorry.
You better? I got a piece of a drink that has not been drinking.
I've got
You
coffee.
got one? Okay. All right. So, T. Graham Brown's one of my favorites. What a voice. He's a blues guy.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
That's all right, buddy. Let me turn. I turned the mics off.
That's
Sorry.
rough.
Hey, I understand. It happens to you. It happens to you. So T. Graham Brown is one. Who else has come in?
That's where I met Marty Rabin.
Marty Rabin. Yeah.
David Ball.
David Ball.
He brought David Ball in one day.
Oh, really?
And then several from here. I mean, it's...
Oh, yeah. You got lots of folks that come in
Yeah.
here, and even new artists
Oh, yeah.
that are trying to get promoted and started. They still come here
Yes.
to the WLX studio. They still come in here.
Oh, yeah.
Try to promote themselves, promote records, and what have you.
But it's fun. I love it. Meeting people, new people, and talking to them. And
Who's the up and comer that you met, maybe that that people might recognize?
well, just last week, C. Thomas Howell was in here with me.
Now, who is C. Thomas Howell?
You ever see the movie The Outsiders? You ever seen The Outsiders,
I
mate?
don't know.
I have not.
I don't think
think
we've
I've heard of it.
It's based off a book. The movie was.
Yes.
Patrick Swayze was in it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know who you're talking
Okay,
about
well,
now.
C. Thomas Howell was Pony Boy in that movie.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. You posted it on Facebook.
Yeah,
I
and he's
remember
been
seeing
in so many different things.
He's been in a lot of movies. Now, let me get. I'm sorry, buddy. If you need to hop up and go and we're almost done. Anyway.
Almost
we're
done.
almost out of here. But anyway, I appreciate you doing this morning. I kind of sprung it on you last minute.
Yeah.
I did, and I knew that you and I could reminisce a little bit. But I found out some stuff about you that I didn't know.
Well, no, I didn't tell you everything.
Well, maybe you need to go ahead and fess up.
No.
You go ahead and fess up everything. May, you got any questions for Lonnie Box?
Not that I know of. That was pretty interesting to listen to.
It
Well,
was
thank you.
interesting. Yeah. Lonnie's had a diverse career and just an all-around good guy. No doubt about it. No doubt about
Well,
it.
I try to be.
Yeah. Been good to me especially and good to others. And enjoy people.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't do the radio thing
Oh, no.
without enjoying people.
No.
And you get a lot of phone calls, music requests.
Yes.
And we didn't even get into how your knowledge of music probably grew. And you know everything there is to know.
No, I don't. I wish I'm not Ronnie Allen. I
Well-
wish I knew as much as Ronnie Allen does.
Now, Ronnie did know a lot of the country music
Oh,
stuff.
yes.
A lot of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
But you have a broad range of knowledge from gospel.
And of course, if anybody knows me, they know I'm a huge Elvis Presley fan.
Big Elvis Presley.
And
fan.
anything I could find
Yeah.
about Elvis or read it or
Yeah, but-
any kind of documentaries.
But even the gospel music groups and all that, you know all the groups or most
at
of
one
them.
time I did.
Yeah, you got a background in that and
Yeah.
could name off what they did. So, you know, when I came to the studios here, that song that the Whites, I believe, did, the White family called "He'll Roll Me Over the Tide."
Mm-hmm.
I thought the whole time I heard that growing up that was Vestal Goodman.
Vestal.
Vestal Goodman. And I got here to the studio, kept trying to find it, but I was looking with the Goodmans and couldn't find that.
No.
I thought, why is that song not showing up? I know Vestal Goodman sang that song,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't her. It was
It was actually the Singing Cooks.
the singing Cooks. I said
Yes.
Whites. It's the Cooks. See, that's how much
Yep.
I know. But I know the songs, but I won't pay attention
Mm-hmm.
to the names, and that's been a problem.
Well, you got to pay attention to the
But
name.
you, on the other hand, are the expert.
Well, no, I'm not an expert.
But I know this.
As my grandmother Box would say, I don't know everything, but I know a whole heap.
But when I've wanted to know about a song, I could call you or ask you, and you would know.
And I've had people to do that to me for years.
Yeah.
When I worked at the sheriff's department, they'd call me from a circuit court clerk's office. Lonnie, we need your help. What? Who did such and so song? and
And
why
you know.
why I can remember that, I don't know.
Well, because you've been doing it, buddy, and you enjoy it.
I enjoy it,
Bo-
yes.
Box, thank you for coming in.
Well,
buddy.
thank you for asking.
Lonnie
me.
Box, everybody, my good friend and our radio buddy, as we say. And I've learned a lot, buddy. I thank you for doing it with me this morning.
Well, thank you for asking.
Next week, I think Mr. Jim Brewer is going to be in here.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have him in. But thanks for doing it with us. We got to turn this. We got to turn this over to Fox. Okay.
All right.
See you, buddy.
Broadcast services of Prospect Communications.
No such thing has ever happened.